friends. The last Sunday's Old Testament reading was Exodus 20, where God gave the Ten Commandments. In today's world, we like to have our own voice and make our own decisions. We don't like being commanded what to do or not to do. Instead of being commanded to not bear false witness, that's number 9, we'd rather decide how much truth we give to someone else. But in Lent, we think very carefully about faith and life, so we understand that trust fosters good relationships, that God created us for good relationships, and that false witness erodes those good things. We may not like being commanded, and may not even like someone strongly suggesting what we should or shouldn't do, but Lent reminds us that God's ways are always best. And remember, we don't break the Ten Commandments any more than we break the law of gravity. If you ignore the law of gravity and jump off a building, you don't break the law of gravity. Ignoring that law will break you. Since God's intent with the commandments was good relationships for humanity, ignoring His commands don't mean that we break them. It means that we are breaking ourselves. Lent begs us to listen more closely to God. Today I want to offer you a couple of ways to listen more closely. First, you should adjust your time. Now, I'm not talking about adjusting your clock for daylight savings time, which, by the way, is this Saturday night. I'm talking about adjusting your time. In Lent, time matters because of what it means. We as a church have set aside 40 days. 40, not 39, not 50, that's Pentecost. Not even 7 days, but 40 days. 40 reminds us of the 40 days Jesus endured the wilderness temptations. Of the 40 years, Israel wandered in the wilderness. The number 40 is important, so we use 40 days for Lent. And if you do the math from Ash Wednesday, you'll notice that we don't count Sundays because every Sunday is a miniature Easter. Adjusting our time in Lent means that we see the elements of Lent and Holy Week, and they prepare us for Easter. Now, 2 Sundays back, Jessica and Michael offered special music on the cello and the violin. One of their songs, Be Still My Soul, ties in very closely to Lent. You remember how Joseph Moore wrote that infamous hymn, Silent Night, using the German words, Stille Nacht. But about 100 years earlier, a German girl named Catherine von Schlegel had used a slightly different phrase, Stille mein Will, which translates as Be Still My Soul. We know so little about her writing or her life, but she lived in Germany at a time when they were experiencing their own version of later holiness movements that we saw in England and America. The Pietists and their deep desire for faithfulness to God affected dozens of other traditions across Christianity, from Lutherans, Presbyterians, Anabaptists, to Evangelicals, Moravians, and Wesleyans. Trying to live a faith-based life back then meant and still means today more than just our external conduct. Here's how Catherine said it 3 centuries ago. So that first part felt like it got a little long, so we'll do the second and a little bit faster. The second way for us to focus on God in Lent is to practice of giving up and taking up, what some call fasting and feasting. We can give up something that requires too much of our time, maybe television, and take up something that needs more of my time, like prayer. We may give up a few cups of Starbucks and take up giving to someone in need. We may give up some recreational time from our own individual pursuits so that we can take up more time with family or our faith family. And bear in mind that if we choose one of those give up, take up ideas, our intent is not to do it for our own benefit. Like giving up ice cream so I can lose weight, that's a New Year's resolution, not a spiritual discipline. These are meant to help us live out Jesus' challenge. Any who want to be my followers must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow. That following is meant to show up in everyday life. Arthur Bailey lived through both world wars and the Great Depression. It should be no surprise that someone like him was invited to write a hymn about the close relationship between our worship and our service. And that when he was invited, he boldly tells us we must look outside our doors and notice the needs out in the world. In his second stanza of the song, he begs us to look outside. Still your children wander homeless. Still the hungry cry for bread. Still the captives long for freedom. Still in grief we mourn our dead. In his third stanza, he asks God, as we worship, grant us vision. Then he urges us to see those needs and share the abundant life that we have in Christ out there. Arthur Bailey was convinced then, and we too remain convinced, that our faith must show up in the lives of others. Here is how Arthur said it in Lord Whose Love Through Humble Service.